Just pulling up the Twitch so I can look at it.
Good evening, anyone that's out there. Welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl, episode 12. Let's save goblins. It's sort of my contention this evening that goblins are in a bit of a state in the Blood Bowl Season 2, or the 2020 rules, as everybody calls them, because Season 2 is a terrible name. Games Workshop should be ashamed of itself. And we all know it's just because they want to sell us Season 3, Season 4, up to Season 78. Without having to, constantly just call it Blood Bowl. So, I want to talk about goblins. We heard when we had Sam, the lovely Mike Davis, on the show that goblins were languishing down the bottom of some of the win stats. We are hearing, lots of lovely things done about snotlings. We're hearing halflings clambering over that 50% win rate. Even ogres are getting some people excited. Those people are very stupid. Ogres are terrible. Don't do it. But they are. And yet, goblins, they're still terrible. Everyone's still not coaching them, and they're in trouble. At least that is my contention. So I brought together three of the wisest goblin heads I could possibly find. From principally, and this is an unfair characterization, but principally from the world of Bleeby 2, we have Moradam. Myself, I'm not unknown to occasional goblining, largely from Fumble, but also from all over the place. We have Walbub. And then joining us from the world of tabletop, but also notably cropping up in a Blitzpit stream not a million miles away from here, we have a Yudlugger. All of them have a fearsome reputation with goblins. I could not have found three more violent, dangerous, and high-rolling goblin coaches if I had looked hard, which I did. So I want to talk to them about goblins this evening. As we do that, we're going to talk about both the old rule set, the new rule set, what's different, what's better, what we should be trying to do, how we should be playing them in leagues, how we should be playing them in tabletop, how we should be playing them in Resurrection, in whatever format we want to talk about. I just want to spend some time talking about goblins. I've had some lovely support from Sam, Mike Davis, who sent us some stats to have a look at in terms of what's going on in the tabletop world, the tournament side of NAF. We've also had the lovely Krista search through the Fumble database and drag us out some statistics there. So we're going to have a quick look at what every race is doing in 2020. But down at the bad end of that graph is where we're going to find the goblins. Moradam, hello.
Hello, PC.
Now, I heard you were an actual goblin. There's a word in between
I
there I'm not going to use in case I'm trying to keep this somewhat family friendly.
I'm called a lot of things that aren't family friendly. Yeah.
Visual evidence tells me otherwise.
Yeah, I am a human, despite being called a literal goblin. Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish I was a real goblin.
Well, what a beautiful wish to have, and let's hope there's a fairy or a genie out there listening to you right now who could absolutely turn you into a goblin. What a beautiful thing to see that would be. Someone actually being a goblin. Unthinkable.
Amazing.
What is it fair of me to say that you're Blood Bowl 2's Mr. Goblin? How did that happen, and where's that come from?
Me or Kiander, right? Like Kiander is probably Mr. Goblin, just full stop. But I do play a lot of goblins. I play a lot of goblins in Rebel Clan. I've played in a couple other just random non-Rebel leagues. CCL. I play almost exclusively goblins as well. Usually sniping, to be fair. Usually I see, Elliot spinning and I'm like, ooh, he's trying to play chaos. Let's throw goblins out. Something stupid like that. But yeah, no, I do play a lot of goblins. I play goblins in tabletop a little bit. Not a ton, a little bit. I played on Fumble a little bit as well to get some 2020 experience. So I have played them.
There's a burning question that I'm sure is coursing through the brains of everybody in chat and DBG. Why? Why goblins? There's so many races available.
All right. Well, so I originally played orcs. I've been playing Blood Bowl for 21 years. I started when I was 13. My dad picked up the board game. Didn't realize there was other races, right? I thought humans and orcs was it. Didn't realize you could get other stuff until college. Somebody's like, hey, have you ever played elves? So I was like, what the hell is an elf? And then I wish I hadn't asked that question because I found out what an elf was and I didn't like it.
Horrible things.
Horrible things. And then I played in college a bunch. Some of my friends who didn't play as much said, hey, you're too good at orcs. We need you to play something worse. So like, okay, well, I heard goblins are bad. But then they're still green, right? I can still use the troll. I can take some of the goblins from my orc team. So I played goblins, still beat them. found them hilarious. It's like, oh man, they either win or they self-destruct. It's hilarious. I've been a goblin main ever since.
So is this a humble brag that you can beat anyone even with goblins, or were your friends just particularly terrible at Blood Bowl?
They were particularly terrible. Yes, they were horrible human
Wow.
beings, dwarf coaches, disgusting,
Filth.
filth.
Why would
Filthy
a man do that to himself, or indeed any Blood Bowl coach? So why bring that online? Why has it stayed with you? I mean, on Blood Bowl 2, you have most of the races of Blood Bowl available to you, and a couple that aren't really Blood Bowl races, but are sort of there. Why stick with goblins? Surely it's Blood Bowl uphill, isn't it?
It is, but here's the thing: that there's always a play. Unless you have no goblins left in the field, no trolls, no players whatsoever. There's always something you can do with goblins, like stunty, dodge, agi 3. You can go for an uphill. You can do these crazy plays. And with other races like humans, there's just not crazy plays you can really do and expect to have any chance of winning.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about all of that when we get everyone else involved. So let's instantly do that. Let's just move around the circle. We'll go to Walbum. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you this evening? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm doing grand. Thank you very much. I was really looking forward to this actually, and I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I've characterised you as the fumble voice here, though I can serve that purpose as well. But you are the top-rated Goblin coach on Fumble right now. You are the big boss Goblin. You're top of the pile. In the world of the green things, that's how we judge success. The biggest, baddest Goblin. How did that come about? Was that a choice, a mission? Are you chuffed?
Well, I mean, it was ranked, so it's a little bit more. I mean, obviously, ranked and black box is a little bit of controversy, and some people are fanatical towards either ranked or black box. But ranked does allow you a little bit more liberty to use the goblin inducements, especially in the old rules like 2016 and before that. But I always saw it as kind of like, well, I'm a little bit tired today, or I have a bit of time. Let's see if I can play a game with Gobos, and then it just kind of went from there. I've always been a bit of a Blood Bowl binger now. I mean, on and off. I've been playing it since Blood Bowl 1. But now I'm actually heading towards the off again. I had a huge amount of game time for Blood Bowl 2020, but now I'm winding down again. But yeah, no, it wasn't a specific mission. I just kept playing and playing and playing, and of course may he rest in peace. I was obsessed with continuously hiring Ripper. So like, you'd be fighting someone with 300 TV, 400 TV hire. It's like, that's all right, I got Ripper, it's okay. So that was certainly an obsession. Star players, and that obsession.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have teased you with Ripper, obviously, no longer in the land of the living. And we'll circle around back to that. I think we're all,
of course,
hopeful, but right now Ripper's dead. Lots of people teased you about that, notably. You're not kidding, are you? You love that troll.
I love that troll. Yeah, I mean, I have the tabletop, the third edition tabletop model. He's nicely packed. He's got his own little part in the box and everything. And honestly, I mean, while I haven't played them in 2020, unfortunately, he has actually gotten me a literal proper trophy in a small local tournament. He was directly responsible. He got me an incredible record of 0 wins, 0 losses, and 6 draws in one of the online tournaments. And he also helped me win a Stunty Cup as well in another tournament, which was NAF approved as well. That was just before 2020's release. He was there on a more permanent basis. Incredible. I love that.
Fantastic. I mean, I was robbed by a toxic halfling. I went to a tournament, took goblins, coached them to 2-2-0 in a 4-game tournament, and was robbed of the Stunty prize by a fling that went 3-1-0.
Disgusting.
It is. That was genuinely disgusting, and I knew that this was a group that could hear my pain and understand how horrific that was.
Jimmy's just saying in the chat that everyone could be, all the guests could be a bit louder.
Oh, okay. I will.
I don't know if this is just a joke that you're talking too much, but he could be being serious, I suppose.
Let me put it up to there, and hopefully they should be on a more comparable level.
Oh, my chat's not streaming through. Strange.
That's the master chat level put up for all of them, so that should get them all up a bit. Thanks, Jimmy. So yeah, I mean, I what I'm hearing, Walbum, is that whilst saying there's a slight accident to it, I mean, if you're coaching goblins on tabletop, if you're winning tournaments with them, if you're climbing to the top of the Goblin rankings on Fumble and that wasn't a surprise to you when I told you, there's some Goblin love there, isn't there? We can't deny it. It's not just Ripper. The race itself has something for you.
No, absolutely. And honestly, that love for goblins actually got me into Warhammer. Never mind Blood Bowl. There was a White Dwarf issue called the Black Goblin, and I just fell in love with all of the Night Goblin and Squig aesthetic. And that was way back when I was in primary school, like a kid. I absolutely adored it. And then how I got it through them in Blood Bowl, there's a trailer which is still up on YouTube, like Blood Bowl Champions Goblin trailer. And then I saw, oh, look, there's the Goblin Fanatic and there's the chainsaw. And then I got Blood Bowl 1, and then, I just kept playing them. I mean, our first 100 games were Goblins, it was just Goblins. And I did absolutely terrible, but it was delightful. And I even joined a tabletop league way back then, and I even got the metal team, the old metal team. I still have them. I'm never going to get rid of them. And I still love Goblins even now, even though my 2020 record may not show it. I do like Goblins, but that love kind of receded for two reasons. One was Ripper's gone, alas, but the other more significant one is I played them too much, and when I played them in tournaments and when I did get results, it started becoming all I want to do is just win with this team. It wasn't fun anymore. It was just I must win, you know. And then I was like, I'm not having fun with them anymore, you know. And I still love the Goblin team by design. I love the aesthetic and stuff. But then I was like, nah, this is just. I'm just going to move on from there now. I still have them, and I still play them
Yeah.
occasionally in an exhibition, but no, it's just like, nah, I need to wind down now. So
I mean, that's interesting. One of the reasons I took Goblins to that tournament was I actually wanted to play a whole tournament where I wasn't that worried about whether I win or lost. I was just going to have some fun. And then I found I started tryharding because I'm a munchkin and I'll do anything to win.
no, of course, but I think that's just a product of playing Blood Bowl long enough. You know, I mean, we all love the virtual dice. We love getting that hypothetical hit, so to speak. Like, oh yeah, I won against the odds, or like you just murder 5 orcs in first opening blocks, and it's like, oh, that's amazing.
Look at the smiles
But
around this ring, everybody. Do you get that much
exactly,
happiness just when you throw a block and it works? No, because you're not goblins.
exactly,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
true.
Um, but yeah, no, then it just became, as you said, like try harding. It's just, and then I was like, no, I can't. I'm not enjoying goblins anymore. And I suppose as well, and this may sound really bad, the Goblin team by design. I know every team can be nuffled. Every team can be diced. No one's immune to that. But and I'm not saying I'm like super top 99% win ratio. But you could have a very strong plan in place for goblins. All you need is please don't go stupid, trolls. Do not go stupid. All I need is a push, and we can push forward. Go stupid, loner fails, your whole flanks collapse, and it's just, oh, sweet Jesus Christ Almighty. Whereas my other team, which now I'd consider my primary team, Chaos Chosen, who I actually played soon after Goblins, they still remain the same. Yeah, they have no skills, but they won't detonate like Goblins will, or at least to the same catastrophic extent.
Let's bring Yudlugger into this because he is our
Sure.
fourth, also smiling at the joy of coaching goblins. But Jacques, I mean, here we are having fun with our weapons, admitting that sometimes we get dragged into being competitive. You sold yourself to me, sir, as a man that can beat purple goo with goblins. Let's just say that
I,
again.
I,
But
I
recently,
mean,
in the 2020 rules, you told me you beat purple goo with goblins. I just want everyone that listens to this to know that.
so I mean,
Love you,
I
Phil.
know, I know, I know. Us console coaches get a bit of stick, but I do like of all the things I sent you, the one that you pick out is our dice purple goo once at a tournament. That's the highlight, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Who cares what you do on a PlayStation? You beat purple goo.
Um, are we as goblin coaches, are we having more fun?
Yes.
I mean, I've never played anything other than Goblins. I don't have a benchmark to compare it to. So I'm having fun. Would I have more fun with a different race?
I did notice
Okay.
that I've recently knocked into your Blood Bowl 2 account so that we can, if I want to, pull up your Blitz Pit team. Although I've closed down since, so it'll take us a few seconds if we choose to. I did notice that it is just Goblin teams, so finding the Blitz Pit one took longer than I thought. Okay, so I don't have to ask if you love Goblins. You've told us already you only play Goblins. There's a burning question. I'm not going to leave it hanging. Why?
I think it came. I started with goblins because when I first got Blood Bowl 2, I went on CCL and I had a bit of a read, and it kind of felt like if you want to qualify as a new player, you should probably take a stunty team. At least on PlayStation, you could probably get in with 2 wins, 3 wins in a row. That would probably be enough. So, well, I'll do that. So that's why I started with goblins, and then eventually, like Walbam says, after 50, 100 games, you get to the point where you're becoming that you can pull some wins out if you get the good dice, and then it kind of went on from there.
Okay. So you feel you were self-taught in your goblining?
So I mean, my goblin playstyle came from the Plasmoids guide that was on from wherever it was from before. So I mean, I play a very I'd call it an attrition style. Others would say a luck style. I rely on rolling good dice to remove all the opposition players, and I very much lean in towards the variance.
Okay, I mean, I want to come to that
are
because
very
we've got a
much known
lot of
for.
different goblining styles between the 4 of us, and yet all can be successful. It's one of the beautiful joys of this underrepresented, underloved race. It's just how versatile they can be. You, since that epiphany, you must have become aware there are other races in Blood Bowl.
Jimmy just put in the chat on PlayStation you could get in with 001, which I did. I did qualify for the 001 Goblin team, and then I took them to the final after that. They had 1 game in the regular season and then just had a run where I just couldn't fail a throw teammate.
Yeah, the cherry is kind of squashing that cake. You took a 001 Goblin to the final in PlayStation.
Yeah. So it was a game that I played 1 game with the team, lost, and then I had a break for that season. And then no other Goblin coaches took the ticket, so they messaged me and said, "Can you fill in that spot?" Sure.
There's an expression, isn't there? Some still waters run deep, and that's very true. But some still waters are just puddles, and that may be what's happening with the PlayStation player pool there. Since those glorious days, your epiphany, your joy in discovering the Goblin play of Blood Bowl, someone must have at some point made you aware that you can, at the race selection screen, pick other races.
Yeah, but you kind of get to the point where you've played the one team for so long and you know what you're doing, and then you take another team and all of a sudden you feel like, well, I'm good at Blood Bowl, I should win with these, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to play anything but goblins.
Don't you feel by osmosis, by facing those other teams, you've learned maybe some coaching?
I know how. Oh yeah. If you give me a team and say play some goblins and beat them, 100% every time. Yeah.
And you're staying with goblins and on tabletop as well. So you're a cross-format polygoblin.
Yeah. So I mean, I probably have the majority of my games. I've maybe done, I don't know, 2/3 on PlayStation, a third on PC. Ball 2, and then the rest, a few, I don't know, maybe 30 games a tournament, and then my local league.
But that's quite a lot for goblins on tournaments. Which of you two should I be asking primarily? Because something I do want to talk about is Goblin Town. I am obviously a member of Goblin Town, I'm proud to be so, but a lot of people won't have heard of it. Who wants to briefly introduce that before we start talking about builds and goblins and the future?
Sure, I can take. Yeah, so I mean, this Goblin Town started as one of the rebel racial discords, and I believe Kiander and Dalric picked it off originally, and then it sort of grew a little bit. It brought in people from PlayStation, people from tabletop. People started getting pointed this way. Some good guides in it. There's a lot of videos, a lot of obviously there's a lot of good goblin coaches, and it's a good place to get information on it. And then it kind of felt like the Goblin Discord was doing quite well. Nobody cares about the Halfling Discord, ogres. So we kind of gave them a little channel where we laugh at them, and it's almost become a bit of a stunty town, but obviously only goblins count in that regard.
Yes, Goblin rule the town. The other stunty races are allowed in a sort of area where they can, as you say, be mocked and kept out of the way. Because obviously most stunties are played by very toxic coaches that just enjoy lording it over people when they get their very few wins. Goblins, not at all like that. We're just in it for the fun and the weapons.
Of course.
So, Goblin Town, do find us on Discord. There will be links if you're watching the YouTube of this, or a highlight of the Twitch of this, or indeed on Spotify. There will be links to places like Goblin Towns and the lovely Twitches and anything else social media wise that these people have. Goblins 2020. I clickbaitily and deliberately and somewhat ironically so have titled this episode "Let's Save Goblins." Guys, am I right? Do goblins need saving?
No. Goblins
Yes,
they're already
I think.
good. I don't think they need saving. I think okay. Could they be better? Yes. Are they a tier 1 team? No. Are they better than they were in LRB 6? Yes. Just yes. The Hooligans got dirty player right out the gate, which is something that Goblins were kind of missing early on. The star players all got better. The Pogo's shit, but he was always kind of shit. Trolls got better, right? Loner 3+, projectile vomit. There's a whole list of things that we could say that they got better.
Okay, well, but why do they need help?
I think they need help because, well, just I'm kind of cheating here just by the win percent on fumble, and we can see from the NAF stats they're in the toilet. And I'm going to try and keep this short because I know I can go on a little bit. I think the first issue is that they've lost their niche. Snotlings have robbed them completely of everything. If you want to win with a stunty team and who are green, you go Snotlings. You want to have fun, foul people, and just murder them with secret weapons and other stuff, you go Snotlings. And in addition to that as well, they're the only stunty team, as far as I am aware, from some of, in a significant fashion, who have suffered from players getting an increase in pricing. So it's a little bit harder to skim already what is already a team designed to be low team value to get that extra team value. And furthermore, even putting aside Ripper, the addition of Fungus and Dribblesnot is very good. However, they cannot exploit star players even remotely as well as Ogres, who do not count their team value to the Noblars, as the Halflings, who are just generally cheaper, and the Snotlings, who now have the infamous Morgan Thorg and Hackflem combo.
Yep.
Goblins just simply cannot compete with that. I mean, with the absence of Ripper, I've gone towards Grashnak, aka Grassnack. Thank you, gamer man. Who's the big minotaur. He's gotten much cheaper. He's got a Negatrait, but he's my new love now.
Yes, they've given him a Negatrait because the goblins can't have nice things. And he's a stun machine, isn't he? He comes with claw, but he doesn't have mighty blow to back it up. I find lots of stuns.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of stars have got a lot of negative traits, but goblins also don't have the same ability to induce as well as the other stunty teams. I mean, they do have Fungus, they do have Dribblesnot. They're both amazing, all right. But unlike the other star players which they may have had before, like never mind Ripper, Scrap a Sorehead, who I know is very controversial, but that is an extra dirty player. Their options are restricted, and just by their very nature, Fungus and Dribblesnot, as successful as they are, they will implode. They will spin around and do nothing. And they lack that extra element of consistency, again, which the other stunty teams have been loved with. Ogres got buffed, Halflings got buffed, barely any nerfs, if any.
I want to come back to all of these points, but I want to bring Yudlugger in. Are goblins in trouble? Am I lying to the world?
So, I mean, speaking specifically about NAF rule sets, I think a little bit as they were in 2016, they're very, very dependent on the rule set. You can have goblins as much as any team, I think, are particularly weak in sort of what you'd call a competitive rule set. What you'd see at the NAF, where you get like 6 single skills and a double. You're taking a stunty, you get more money to spend, but you're taking single skills, and one of Goblin's big weaknesses is skill access. You're taking sidesteps and diving tackles on Goblins and this kind of thing, or you're using your doubles on the Goblin and you're left with guard on Trolls, Mighty Blow Fanatic, this kind of thing. And I think that's still present in 2020. So because of the cost increases, they're quite difficult to fit into 1150. I've been to a few tournaments where, as you say, with no Ripper, trying to fit Morg in a Goblin team isn't easy. I've been taking no reroll Goblins to tournaments, and just purely relying on Morg to kill the team as the sole game plan. It's quite powerful, but then I think UKTC is a good rule set of Goblins because you have a lot that, although there's no stars, you get a lot to spend. You can fit everything in. The tournament I went to under UKTC rules to test them out did great. Won the games fine. and it was like really felt really strong roster wise. So it depends is the answer. I think they're quite
Okay.
dependent on the format.
Let's pull up the things we've got to have a look at to bring everyone else into sort of some of the baselines that we are looking at. So if you throw your eyes on the stream, we are going to disappear from their screens for just a little minute. This is the NAF win percentages provided by the lovely San, Mike Davis. So obviously the first point is where Goblins were on BB Classic, and then where they have gone to, obviously, in Blood Bowl 2020. So you can see that some of the big names have dropped in win percentage. You know, Wood Elf dropping as low as 52%, bless them. Very so many sad Wood Elves around. Dark Elves also dropping, Lizard Men dropping, and Humans dropping. So 4 of the big traditional ones. Rises everywhere else, including for Goblins, who have gone from 34% to a whopping 36%. But very much, as Wilburn was saying, is really the issue here that we've seen our usual friends, the Halflings and the Ogres, just accelerate out of sight. You know, right up into the, you know, I mean, as I said, Flings, what briefly at one point were tipping over 50%, they've dropped just back under. Ogres actually, you know, going up ahead of Flings. Whilst we don't have Snotlings on this document, Snotlings are again rocking in about that same place, just under the 50%. In fact, both Flings and Ogres outperforming Humans in NAF format. Truly, truly terrifying. Now, if we flip across to the other thing I've got set up, this is some statistics from Fumble. We will start here. This is our versus win rates. This is what Goblins are doing across Fumble versus the other races. We are kicking Ogres' asses. I think you'd expect that. The Goblins are able to take on those Noblars quite successfully. Everyone's kicking Vampires' asses, so we are doing that. We're just scraping over 50% at Black Orcs. Because Black Orcs, whilst they're loads of fun, are truly quite terrible. And again, we get more Goblins so we can get hold of their Goblins. And their Strength 4 Black Orcs aren't that useful against us.
So it's
we're
interesting
50%
that you say that about.
With
I
every
think it's
other
interesting.
race.
Interesting you say that about Black Orcs, because one of the things that I found difficult at the tournaments I've been to is there's been more bad matches than usual. Has been my experience. So I've always hated playing something like Lizard Men because I quite heavily rely on a sideline cage. You tend to run out of players and have to go down the edge. And I've played a lot of teams with stunty players. So Humans now are bringing Halflings with dirty player. Orcs, not sneaky git. Orcs have got a sneaky git goblin almost all the time now. There's Black Orcs have been added. There's Lizards. And so the amount of these teams where you've got a stunty player that can just dodge into your cage and one die your ball carrier.
Snotlings, Underwhelm, Old World Alliance.
Yeah, it's previously there weren't that many. It was either a stunty matchup or Lizards, and that was pretty much it, wasn't it? Really.
Walbert.
Yes. Well,
What are we seeing in these stats? I just want to pop back to them again.
Well, I think for me, I mean, I haven't played them in 2022, so unfortunately, but just for going from that, again, like what I said, just not to sound like a beating a dead horse or a broken record, I think it's a mix of access to stars. It's also, as Yudglar said, more bad matchups. I think as well, I mean, by design, Goblins are not meant to be that good, but with the other teams either staying the same or getting some additional gimmick or such like that, it's a tough time to be a Goblin, even in tournaments or league, and as again, Yud had said, getting Morg is very tough to fit in. League or tournament. He's 380k now, and even before at 340k.
Yeah.
They just can't do it without compromising the integrity
Surely,
of their
I don't think it feels very goblin-y, but surely Hack Phlegm is an answer, isn't he?
Well, I mean, I've used Hackflem with Chaos, which is quite different, I suppose. But yeah, Hackflem is definitely something, but he's not Goblin, as you said. He's changed the meta quite radically in terms of the tournament setting. Like, he can work for nearly like all the bad races, so to speak. He's good. He's definitely exceptionally good. He actually helped me win a season, actually, with my regular Chaos. So I have no complaints there. But he still is better served with other teams. Ultimately, I just think it's just Goblins They've just been left in the dust. They've been neglected. And the addition of the dirty player is great. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of that, just murdered my elf union. But even still, all it takes is one bad, really stupid, even with the loner. What they should have done is remove the loner from the trolls. Completely. Just completely remove it. Because loner 3 plus, yeah, it's great. Okay, it's good. But why does every other stunty team have just vastly superior tools and better attrition, better everything?
Because
So
we're in it
give
for
the
the fun
goblins some
and
love.
they're toxic. Here is the bad
Yeah,
news
that
in
too.
terms of the fumble win rate. Obviously, a surprise to some people. Let's just deal with it because I'm sure chat's going to be some of them more interested up in this end. Leading the way is Underwhelm in the mid 60s,
Yeah, of course.
just behind them Amazon, just behind that Undead,
Let me
Skaven,
check that.
and then Dwarf in fifth. I think that's going to be a surprise to some people. It's that low. Obviously, done a huge amount in the midfield, but then right down the bad end, obviously vampires are complete trash at the moment and do need some help. They coach somewhat better at NAF style, but in a long-lived format or a league format, they're in trouble. Next up's Fling.
Yeah, I found them
There's
in
Goblins. Notably, a big chunk down from Flings and then Wood Elves and Chaos Renegades and Ogres. Anyone that feels sorry that Wood Elves is there, we can't be friends. We just can't be.
Yeah,
The
I
Goblins are
agree.
the second lowest. That is the very second lowest. Krista's just such a lovely guy. He also pulled out just over the last 30 days for us. Look, Wood Elves, still down there. But Goblins, second bottom, again, a notable chunk down from Flings, but a notable chunk better than Vampires, which are just terrible at everything. Underwhelm and Amazons and Undead still leading the way. This is also quite interesting. This is the number of teams people have made. Obviously, you're seeing Black Orcs, Khorne, Imperial Nobility, the new Necromantic, all the new funky races are getting lots and lots of love. But right down at the people don't want to play with us is Goblins. Though people are playing, because the orange line is the number of games, the blue line the number of teams. People are playing their Goblins, whereas they are not, for example, playing their Snotlings. Lots of people are making them, they're not playing them as much. I do think Snotlings are an issue. I know that's been covered. I do think they're an issue in terms of tournaments, and some of the more exciting,
Yeah.
dynamic players are choosing to play Snotlings because they're the new black, they're the new sexy thing to play with a similar dynamic to Goblins. And that may be where we've lost some Goblin coaches too. So that's what's going on in terms of number of games. That's quite interesting. We may come back to that when we talk about skills. That is the number of skills that have been chosen in each category, which ones have been random and which ones have been deliberate. So, that is a fact. Goblins are screwed. We've gone perhaps up a percentage or two in terms of the win percent from the pre-2020 rules. We've had a lot of buffs, but we've had some nerfs. You've both told us about some of those. All three of us have been three of you have talked about some of those. We have recently had some very good news, as it's also set, ready to go. We'll have a quick look at that, and then we'll discuss it all at once. Bear with me.
Are you about to show us the new Ripper star player that's coming in the next fight?
Oh,
I'm certain that is the case, but no, I have had no
Ah.
leads. All I can
that's
show
upsetting.
you is that we do have Fungus the Loon confirmed to be back. I know he was in the Almanac, but he's being talked up here. He's getting Whirling Dervish, which means once per activation he will be able to re-roll the D6, which is obviously actually a D3. Games Workshop really showing they know and love the game there. When determining which direction he moves in. And Bomber Dribble Snot also back. And of course he gets Kaboom, which means once per day if an opposition player catches a bomb thrown by Bomber, you can choose to have it explode immediately rather than rolling to see if the player can throw it again. That's a nice boost, but remember nowadays court bombs explode half the time anyway. So it's not as big a boost as perhaps it would have been under the last rule set. But the boys are
Absolutely.
back in town. Surely that means Ripper's on his way. Surely that's going to solve it all, isn't it? We are going to see Goblins, everyone's favourite team, finally doing well again. Yes?
You might
Well,
see them do better, but I mean, you're not going to see them jump up to like Snotlings level,
Yeah.
right?
What a
Yeah.
horrific sentence to have committed to the world.
I know. Well, I heard PC that you don't like Bomber Dribble Snot.
I
Is that correct?
That's
right?
not true. He's perhaps not my first out of the gate.
So I do want to talk about dribble snot.
Yeah, I want to talk about builds in general. So let's move. Let's be aware of where we were in 2016, but let's talk about 2020 and builds. Okay. What are we building? We've just seen. I know it's somewhat of the past, but I just had a look at the Blitzpit build of Yudlugger. He's gone very different to me. He's gone with when I had a Blitzpit qualifier, I used the fact that I was allowed lots of doubles to build lots of goblins with agency, some guards, some wrestle, a blodge goblin. And then I also lent into some weapons with a bit of protection on them and not too heavily into the bribes. He's gone 3 trolls, loads of naked goblins, 1 dirty player, and Ripper, as well as the 3 bribes. So he's gone very much with the high troll, high damage output, high fouling build. I think that's probably fair with the long bench. You've got trolls, you've got weapons, you've got long benches, you've got fouling. There's so many different things we could be doing with goblins in 2020. What's right? What's the right build? Do we have trolls? Let's start nice and simple. Should we be building trolls? And is this across all formats, across tabletop, leagues, and NAF? So if there's a format you think is different, let me know. Should we definitely have the trained trolls? Do we like them?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You can't. Build
Absolutely.
trolls.
They're mandatory. Absolutely.
You need them for the roadblocks, if nothing else. And they're much safer than they were in Blood Bowl 2, right? The projectile vomit, if you're like, well, I can't really risk having a turnover here. The projectile vomit never turns you over. It's a poor man's stab, right? So you've got that
Is
going
it
for
good
you.
against blodge pieces? I mean, that's what I'm seeing using it is against wood elves. I want to
Yes,
throw up on wood elves.
if you can't get a 3 dice, I believe that the odds are better to just vomit on the blodge piece with the troll. Right? If it's armor 7,
Yeah.
right? An armor 7 blodge, if someone's got some disgusting, blodge chaos warrior or some shit, then obviously you're not going to vomit on that. But yeah, the vomit is a great tool to have.
And the 3+ loner, I mean, I share our pain. Why trees can do whatever they want. Why ogres face no loner problems. And yet our trolls are only trained. They are not actually able to use rerolls. It is weird, but there we are. We have 3+ loner. That's better. That's unarguably better than 4+ loner. Is it good enough to risk using rerolls on them?
Not usually. Not unless it's something you really, really need, right? If you got a reroll for the throw teammate, Hail Mary play of the game, then yeah. Or if, it's your only chance to maybe salvage something with a blitz. You don't get a knockdown on their ball carrier with a troll. Maybe you throw a reroll in there, but it's only a 3+ versus a 4+. It's only 1 different die on the d6. At 1 in 6 times, the loner 3+ saved you when the loner 4+ wouldn't have.
Yeah, Lugger, are you agreeing? I saw a shrug of your doubter's chin.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't really make many plays with the trolls. Like if it's a crucial play, a goblin's doing it generally. So usually the things the trolls are doing are not critical. Obviously, sometimes you do have to make them, and that's part of the goblin. You live and die by the 1 in 9 in a goblin match, almost always. But wherever possible, the trolls aren't doing things that you have to reroll. So it's generally keep them. I mean, I do quite like the new pro as well. I always liked a pro troll in the old rules, and I think the new pro helps them as well. And I think then it becomes, particularly for the stupid rolls and this kind of thing.
I mean, I never did. I have to say, I was never a pro fan. But then Kiandir sort of talked me into it on a stream once, and I got some really good results with it. Like all goblin things, it was frustrating and let me down incredibly often. But then a lot of times it really didn't, and it did some wonderful things. So I was more of a convert to it. It's definitely got better, hasn't it? Is it now a sort of try and get on your trolls?
Well, so for me, it was always the second double after block, and I think that's still the case.
Okay. Anyone? No one's moving it above block. Anyone thinking a brawler troll sounds sexy, or a random troll skill sounds sexy, or are we really trying to get the skills we want to get on them?
Brawler's not bad if you need to shave some TV, right? Brawler is an underrated skill because you're not like I said, you don't want to do anything with a troll that you need to do, which is usually even blitzes, right? You don't want to blitz with a troll if you can help it. So, but if you can base up somebody and throw a punch with brawl, a 2 dice goes from a 1 in 9 to a 1 in 18.
Yeah.
That's good odds. That's not bad.
So we're all loving trolls. I mean, I'm the same. I'm going to posit a theory. I feel what rookie goblin players do wrong is they rely on the trolls too much. We're all saying the trolls are there to add to what your goblins do, but the goblins do most of your important stuff. Would you all agree with that? And do you think I'm right about over reliance on the trolls in some rookie goblining?
Yeah.
That's tough to say because rookie goblins. I mean, it's goblins, and I think
They are shit,
yes, you're
yes.
correct. Yes, yes, they are shit. I think ultimately though, we all rely on the trolls. It's just the beginners rely a little bit more on them. But ultimately, if you need to break open the line, and under the assumption the fanatic has done his job or he's waltzing off somewhere,
Yeah.
you need those trolls.
Let's go there. So we all need trolls. We all like trolls. If he comes back alive, are we all looking forward to putting Ripper back on our goblin teams?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah, I'm a Ripper fan.
1000%.
I mean, I can build nice goblin teams without him and have done, but I also build lovely ones with him on.
I mean, just to add to that, PC, I mean, Varag is only like, I think, what is he, 280k now in the current rules? And, he's strength 5, he's blitzing, he'll blitz better than Ripper and such, but he doesn't actually enhance the goblin team like
Yeah.
Ripper does. Ripper gives you extra to teammate, an extra strength 6 body, and he
Yeah.
may not have block, but strength 6 can sometimes actually be better than strength 5 with block, sometimes, just to control the pitch.
Maths-wise, it's
And-
certainly one more.
I mean, well, Ripper's good because he's taken the place of a goblin.
Yeah.
It's not just
That's
that it's because you're upgrading a goblin on your drive to a strength 6 troll. That's why he's so good.
That does sound like good value.
Strength 6 non-hungry troll.
We're
as well.
moving on, just because I do want to move on from trolls, but just briefly then, we've lost break tackle. Now, I liked building at least one troll with a break tackle. I'm not a big fan of guard on trolls. I don't quite see what I'm guarding with them. That's always slightly confused me. It gives you better hits on the line of scrimmage, but I mean, I don't want my ball hid protected by trolls because I can't rely on them. I want a screen of goblins, or I want it out the sight where they can't get to it. Really. What are we taking? Are we just going to have to put guard on them now, or stand firm? Or
I'd go
Do we
brawler
save
in
for a double?
2020.
Yeah. Brawler or
it
jugs if you're taking
yeah,
a
it de-
normal skill.
Yeah, I think it depends on the length of the league. If it's a short league, brawler. If it's a long league, you save it up.
Yeah, no, I like that. That sounds good advice. Yudlugger, are you in with that?
No, I build mine with guard and stand firm.
Disgusting.
See, there's such a.
It's nice.
It's the beautiful thing. There's such variety in how you goblin. It's not just put some trees out there, hit things, and then foul them with the little chubby fat things. It's there's art. There's beautiful.
But no. In new rules, I'll be saving for block. That's what I'll be doing.
You don't think again that cheap value of brawler? It does, as we said, 1 in 9 goes to a 1 in 18, and then even on ones that aren't 1 in 9s, there's about a 5% gain in just POWs on ordinary rolls.
No, I mean you can't use it on a blitz, can you? So
No.
If people are basing up your trolls to hit them, fine. Otherwise, it's hit on the line of scrimmage and.
Okay. Right, so while we're through the fanatic out there, let's talk about him. Are we fanatic fans? Should we have a fanatic in our goblins? Are they good? Do we like them?
Yes. The fanatic is amazing, especially in 2020 where you don't have to use your full movement.
Yeah, that's
right?
beautiful.
You don't have to do that stupid thing of, well, I went forward once. Do I try to go to the side once and hope that I don't go forward so I can get back to where, with the line? You can just be like, you go forward once, you go, if that's where you want to stay, you stay. You don't have to keep moving around. Which
Yudlugger,
is
fanatics.
a huge buff.
Big fan?
Yes, like a good goblin drive. Obviously, they go wrong quite often, but a good goblin drive is your fanatic leading your team up the pitch and then you score. That's and that kind of ideal scenario of a goblin drive is so heavily reliant on the fanatic sticking it out and getting there.
Walbum, are you with us, fanatics?
I have two answers to that. Objectively, yes, the fanatic is very good. But for me, and this was part of my little try hard transition, I actually used only 2 trolls, 1 loony, and the rest were goblins. And that was about attrition. Now, is the Fnatic amazing? Yes, absolutely. And did his absence make the line of scrum a little bit more difficult? Yes, although just actually, I tell a lie, I actually did use guard on my trolls as well, and before Brawler was introduced. In fact, I was only hypothesizing with the Brawler on the trolls, but I much preferred the approach of long-term attrition, because the Goblin team is by design. You start as receiver, you're fighting against the clock. Remove the enemy first, and pray to God it sticks. And then by the second half, they have nothing, and then you just swarm them. That's the idea. I actually got fed up using the secret weapons. The bomber ruined one too many games, and the Fnatic would just keep as.
Stick with me,
as
brother.
Moradam
We're having
said.
that fight soon. Keep warming it up.
Yeah, but Moradam said that the Fnatic just, floating around. You have to get them back to the sports center. That got frustrating.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I actually want something a little bit more consistent. I want to be able to bury my opponents through fouls, a deep bench, and scaring them with the chainsaw, and focusing on 3 dice blitzers and blocks with the trolls. And that actually helped. I played goblins like that for so many years. I liked it.
See, I'm a lover of the Fnatic myself. I agree. I love driving behind the Fnatic. I hopefully he can move first. I can decide where he's gone, and then my trolls can fill in around him, and I can find a shape and an aggression based on him. It's another thing I think a lot of younger goblin coaches, younger in their goblining, do. Is they allow their Fnatic to just wander off, doing its own thing because it's so strong. And firstly, it'll get killed very quickly. And secondly, it needs to be part of how you do everything. It's a tool within the team, not I've got a team and a Fnatic. In tabletop, it is a bit like that, isn't it? You charge towards the enemy and you release your Fnatic off to do its thing. I think Goblins on Blood Bowl, you keep it more with the team and move around with it. Tough to do, but when it works, it works. Recently, something raised its head towards me, with Creek creaking his way out of the mausoleum and taking his liveness back to the field again. Goblins have a 3 Fnatic build for tabletop.
They do, yes.
Fungus Creek and a rostered Fnatic. Anyone fancy trying that out? I see smiles all around the group.
I
For
don't.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like 2 Fanatics. That's bad enough. 3 would just be.
I would love to run it.
That sounds like being 3 players down in turn 2 to me.
Yeah.
How?
It would
How
be a
did they possibly
fantastic
get hold of all
3
3 of them?
turns. It'd be a fantastic 3 turns.
What a 3
And
turns.
they'd all be dead.
Okay, so we're having trolls, we're having a Fnatic, and if he comes back, we're probably putting Ripper in if we can afford it. Let's go contentious. Are we bringing a Pogo? Is that carrying our ball?
With the price increase, is he really like before?
He
you could
wasn't
argue,
worth
right?
it in the first place.
He wasn't, but
He's
you could at
2
least look and be like,
He's 2 goblins.
but for the people on Blood Bowl 2, if a goblin rolls plus move, you usually take the move. And he's costed the same as a plus move goblin, but he has leap. You can't throw him, but let's be honest, you shouldn't be throwing your best goblins anyway. You should be throwing the shitters because they're just going to get eaten. Like my 2 edge 4 goblins will tell you back-to-back games.
Because not only are trolls loaders, but they eat things
Yes.
which trees don't do. Trees don't
Yes.
eat things.
But
It's
I
gonna be
think in
easy.
this, I can't see taking a Pogo. And I love the Pogo. I ran the Pogo in every team in Blood Bowl 2 with the goblins. I don't think you take him now.
So I'm the complete opposite. I never take him in Blood Bowl 2, and I will take him in the new rules.
Also,
Really?
so why?
He's got more
I-
expensive, and you're gonna forgo your
Yeah.
Pogo no-go to
So
go
the problem
Pogo.
with-
Why?
The problem with the Pogo in Blood Bowl 2 is the skill access. And you're basically using him. He's a ball carrier, isn't he, really? That's what you use him for. So he's the one that scores. He levels up. If you roll singles, you've suddenly got sprint, sidestep, sure feet, and he's 100 odd K, and you need to fire him or hire him. If you're using a goblin as a ball carrier, if he rolls a single, you fire him, get a new one, and wait till you roll a double. So the problem with the Pogo was not that he's bad, it was that he is bad after he levels up a few times. And you
Yes,
go,
he
"Oh,
bloats
double."
incredibly easily, and by then you're relying on it.
And that's gone in the new rules.
Yeah.
I can just wait until he gets a double.
He's
So
still
I
the
think he's
cost
good
of 2
again.
goblins.
Yeah.
I would personally take the hooligan over the pogoer now. I actually used him in
Yeah.
2016 reasonably, but with the cost increase, I think he's not worth it, especially with the
We'll,
addition
we'll
of
come to the hooligan in
an
a
elite
second because
fella.
I would personally take him
Oh
over
yeah.
saving my own children in a house fire.
Like,
Oh
But
my
like
god.
the pogo we need to just settle first.
I mean,
Okay.
the
Okay.
tournament I won last weekend, I had an agility 4, movement 8 pogo, and it's like, well, stop me scoring. I just need to get within 8
Now,
squares, and
that's a shout from Yudlugger, isn't it? It's because now our pogo can save for agility. Now I had an agility 5 pogo, purely for meme value because it actually adds nothing to anything he ever does unless it's raining. But it was very funny. But agility 4 pogos are just joyful, aren't they? They go anywhere and do anything. Surely we should be
Yeah.
getting a pogo and saving for that agility roll. And if we get move, well then we've got a move 8 ball carrier. Oh dear.
That is a good point. Being able to
Yeah.
the problem is
it's
with
not.
pogo, he
Pogos
doesn't
are
float.
terrible. I'm being argumentative.
Well, I mean, it's a good point that if you're going to get a pogo, which I don't think you should save for agility. You shouldn't save for doubles. Shouldn't save for any. You should save for a stat. And if you get agility, you keep him. If you don't get agility, get his ass out of here. Get him out.
Yudlugger, I sense a shake in that head, and then I'm coming back to Walbum to adjudicate. You didn't agree with saving for agility, did you?
I think I'd say for doubles over agility. Yeah, I think agility takes a bit long to get there. I would say I think a block sure hands pogo. I'd be fine with that.
Your more expensive pogo is now paying another 40 TV just to be blodge. You're still fine with it?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
you don't like I run a very like I don't have skills on goblins.
Yeah, you
It's
don't,
like
yeah.
I can put 2 doubles on my ball carrier. That's fine. If he's an extra 35k, I think it's worth it for the extra move and the leaping.
Interesting. So you're talking about building goblins tall, aren't you? Just on your trolls and your ball carrier and maybe a weapon, and then just flat all the way across out from that. Okay.
Would you take a random Yud? Would you take a random general skill on a pogo?
We're going to come to exactly that. We've got some lovely stats to look to when we talk about random, so we will do that in just a second. But let's go through the positionals first, and then we'll come to what we take, because I've got that lovely stats from Krista to show us there. Walbum, what do you think? What do we take the pogo? What do we put on him if we do?
Well, I'm going to be neutral here because I will admit the movement 7 was pretty amazing, and same with leap as well if you're in a tight situation and if your screen collapsed or your pseudo goblin box collapsed. He definitely had positives, but I do think, well, if you were to take him, I actually always took sure feet on him. Just so I could get him away from the enemy faster
Yeah.
and more safely.
Fairly reliable move 9 is so strong. I mean, particularly in a NAF style, as Chat's just been saying. I quite like Pogo in a NAF style. If I can fit him in the build, I sometimes do. On tabletop,
Okay,
I think it can work. On a run in CCL where I'm trying to stay super lean, he's 2 goblins. I'd probably rather have 2 goblins.
Well, I think in CCL, it's there's 3 different types. There's tournament, there's eternal, and then there's league. And I think in eternal, yeah, you want to keep your TV down. But I actually retract my original statement. I actually think I'd take the pogo over the hooligan. Just remembering all the times that leap and movement 7 saved my bum. Yeah, actually, yeah.
Okay, that's wrong, but you're entitled to that opinion. People are entitled to be wrong.
Fair enough.
So
PC,
we're
fair enough.
taking half a pogo because I'm the same. I mostly don't, but there's times I do, and I think the pogo can be all right. I think at the new price point, it's even harder to justify. I still think I probably want 2 goblins, but it's just move because move is so key. A chainsaw, a loony. Do we love our loonies? Dwarves are going to
Absolutely.
laugh
Yes.
at us.
Absolutely, yes.
You never leave without the loony. He is the most reliable. He is the cheapest. Yeah, I think he's still the cheapest. And you have the most control over him.
Is this our
Yeah,
damage
he's
dealer,
still
our
40,
death
yeah.
potential?
He's everything.
Threatening. Well, yes, he has damage potential, but I actually think he's just as powerful even on defense if you just keep him as a safety or a lineback. That can really, really cause trouble for an opponent because, like, oh, well, if I move up here, the chainsaw's going to get me. If I slow down too much, maybe he'll attack. And even if the opponent isn't advancing fast, you could have 2 goblins who are being marked by a person or something like that, or even a single goblin. You can chainsaw that opponent, and if it fails, assuming the chainsaw doesn't kill itself, you can get another goblin in there to 2 dice that person away, and then cover him. The chainsaw.
I mean,
Never leave home without a chainsaw.
I agree. I keep them, as you say, against certain opponents, behind the screen as my backfield threat. And it's amazing watching people, move, knowing I'm trying to find that perhaps one opening for the chainsaw to get exactly where I want it, and how it alters what they do. Like a wizard, it can really control how other people look at the field in interesting ways.
Absolutely.
You'd like a chainsaw, never leave home without one?
Yeah, I probably take a slightly different approach to most more conservative Goblin coaches, if you like. I heavily rely on the chainsaw. He's my blitzer. I'm using him every turn if I can do safely. And it's a bit risky sometimes, but this is one of the best changes in 2020 for me. Is the chainsaw's not a turnover when it kills itself? That's huge. Your problem with Goblins is always that you've got to take the risky things first.
Yep.
You've got to see what happens with the chainsaw, the fanatic. You've got to see if the trolls go stupid, and anything that means that really risky thing I have to do at the start might not be a total game loser if I roll the 1/36. That's huge.
That is a game changer, isn't it? Being able to blitz with a chainsaw as your first action, and if he kills himself, you've got the rest of your turn to sort that problem out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we're having a loony, we're having a fanatic, we might have a pogo, we're having 2 trolls. We're bringing the hooligan, aren't we?
I am. I'm certainly bringing the hooligan. A rostered, no level up, dirty player goblin is fantastic. Right, that's a general skill. You don't have to save up all the SPP to take it. You don't have to rely on getting 6 SPP and hitting that random skill button. He's just got dirty player.
Yes.
And in 6 SPP, he's a sneaky get dirty player, which is the best thing a goblin can get. Right, you want to be throwing fouls. This man can get in there, throw a foul, and get the hell out.
And only get called 1 on 6 times if he's caused some form of armor roll. Injury roll.
Yes, injury roll, yeah.
Which is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Anyone disagree? We need a hooligan and we need sneaky get on it ASAP.
Yeah, the only build I've taken so far that I didn't have a hooligan on was when I had a goblin with sneaky git and dirty player instead to try and move some skill budget into roster build. That's the only time I haven't done it.
So you built one without the weird disturbing presence bonus.
Yeah.
Just to shuffle around where the money was going. I understand. We're having a hooligan. We need to crack on. Are we having a Doom Diver?
The Doom Diver was
we
rubbish
having
in
a Doom
2016. He was rubbish before. He's even worse now.
He was good if you had Ripper, so you could do the crazy 1-turn touchdown. Oh, I'm in range now. I can guarantee landing in your end zone without any of those kerfuffles.
It only worked if your opponent didn't know how to defend against it, though.
Yeah.
Even if they knew how to defend against it, what do they do? Do they backline? Well, then I've still got reasonable odds of landing on the backline, or I can swap to just throwing an ordinary goblin.
Yeah.
Just do the one dodge.
So you're making a slightly better chance for a throw teammate, which is basically the last resort if everything's going wrong, and you pay an extra to take a play with no stunty and no dodge for it.
Okay, so you're wrong about how wonderful the Doom Diver era was, brief as it was, and it was beautiful.
It was good for like 2
I'm glad you missed out because now
2
I
or
don't
3
like
months until everyone had caught up with what to do to defend against it.
But we all agree the Doom Diver is now trash tier rubbish that belongs in no Goblin roster ever.
I do disagree slightly. I think the Doom Diver isn't great, but the potential is still there. Right? He could land in the end zone, and he's only 20k more than Goblin. If you can fit him in, I could see doing it just so the opponent has to think I have to set up far away.
He
so you
can't
could throw a
stunty
regular
dodge. I'm paying 20k to get a worse Goblin.
You are, but during that 1-turn touchdown, they have to set up in the back because you might throw the Doom Diver. So you could throw a regular Goblin and get a better chance of landing and making a touchdown. Would I take the Doom Diver? Maybe for laughs.
Yeah, okay,
but,
that's a fair point. It will alter how they set up a little bit.
Yeah, but is he good? Not really. He's just there to force the opponent to set up in a certain way because you might throw him and he might land in.
Well, but any Doom Diver love from you, these weirdos seem to think it's kind of not terrible.
I think his camera went off briefly, didn't it?
It did. We may have lost one. Yeah. He did warn me that we might lose him at this sort of time. Let's hope we get him back. What else is there? There's I'm missing a. Am I missing
bomber.
A toy? The bomber.
Bomber.
Oh God, yes.
Oh God.
Is anyone rostering a bomber? Because
I hope not.
yeah, me too.
So the bomber is good, but 3 secret weapons isn't viable for
Yeah,
me.
Yeah,
and he's
that's
by
the
far the
He's
worst.
the worst of the 3.
Yeah,
He-
good.
Yeah.
If I could take 20 players, I'd have a bomber. But
Yeah. Well, I still wouldn't take a rostered bomber if I could have 20 players because we'll get to him later. But Dribble Snot is 5k more, and he's a million times better.
Yeah, it's time to get to him now because why would you roster a bomber when for 5k more there's a better one that you then afterwards
Yeah.
don't have a bomber on your roster? So there's a double advantage.
Yeah. The bomber. Here's the thing: the Snotlings. They did the Snotlings right because they gave the bomber passing access on the Snotling team. If the bomber for the Goblins had passing access, would I take him? No, because Dribble Snot's still better. But you might. If Dribble Snot didn't exist, you might take the bomber. But no passing access. I mean, he's just shit. He's
And
a
to be
4+
clear,
pass.
the reason Dribble Snot is better is because he is so much, he isn't that much more expensive. He comes with accurate, so he's better at throwing the bomb. And then when I'm joking about him not being on your roster, but that is good because there are only certain matchups where he's any damn use to you at all. And to be able to have him for those matches at a not very expensive inducement level, but then get rid of him at other times is really definitely an asset of him being hired in as a star.
Pardon,
he
lads,
doesn't
can you
just-
guys see me?
Yeah, we
Yep.
can. Yeah,
We can see it.
Right.
you're back
you
moving
just have
and
to-
audible. So thanks for that.
Excellent.
So Dribble Snot doesn't just have accurate; he's also a passing 3+. So he is right. He's throwing quick pass bombs on a 2, and he's throwing accurate short pass bombs on a 3, and is accurate on a 2. He's a great piece for 50k,
Yeah.
especially compared to the 45k bomber that has none of those things. Is probably just going to blow himself up, and he doesn't even have the thing of the opponent caught the bomb, I'm going to blow it up automatically.
Yeah.
Right? But he's just Dribble Snot is so good, and you still might not take him. There's no way in hell you're taking a rostered bomber for 45k.
Yeah.
No way.
And I like my weapons. I like 2 weapons, 2 trolls, ball and chain, and fanatic. Fanatic and loony for me. Then lots and lots of goblins. Do we like goblins? Do we think
Yes.
lots of goblins is the answer to good goblining? Or is it the toys
I
and the
think so.
trolls?
I think so. You need that bench.
Yeah.
You're going to die, so you need those bodies.
And the weapons are just going to get sent off if you don't have the bench, right? You need to be able to
Exactly.
control when they go out there, and you can't rely on the bribes all the time. So you need a deep bench.
We've got a sort of half a re-roll on a failed argue the call. Is that any good at all? I mean, it turns it from a 6 to a 5, doesn't it? We double the chance of the appeal.
It's not bad, but it's not. You're not going to rely on it, but it's. You're throwing buckets of dice as goblins anyway, so an extra dice in there that you can throw that might save save a player is great, but it's not amazing.
Okay, now we
Yeah.
did have one more piece I wanted to show everybody because this came in from Krista, and I think this is really interesting too.
Sure.
Oh no.
I'm just thankful I'm not the only one with technical difficulties.
There we go. So it's checking out the skill types and choices. So the hooligan is taking chosen primaries 47% of the time, random primaries 24% of the time. 24, these are just numbers. So we can see that the bomber, there's not many people taking bombers. The hooligan is pretty much all over the place, and quite a lot of chosen primaries are obviously for Sneaky Gid. But some people weirdly whisking randoms on him for some reason. Just as many Doom Divers almost around, if you look at the number of skills they're taking chosen primaries and random primaries, and mostly no one saving for secondaries, but a characteristic has gone in. The Fanatic is taking chosen primaries. Goblin Lineman, this is interesting, 513 random primaries, 277 random secondaries, only 79 chosen primaries and only 33 chosen secondaries. A few statistics thrown in too. The Loony is going random primaries and chosen second primaries. With a few secondaries in there, the Pogoer is all over the shop. And the Train Troll is 106 chosen primaries, 97 random primaries and 71 chosen secondaries. Now,
Those are very small numbers. Are people just not playing goblins at all, or what's going on?
yes, that people are not playing goblins
Yeah.
at all, but where they are, those are the choices they are taking.
I, I want to know
How
what
should we be
crazy
skilling
bastard.
people
I
up?
want to know what crazy bastard took movement on a Doom Diver and why. I want them
Well,
to be
because now
brought
they
in front of
don't
Goblin
now they
Court,
don't
and I
get
want to
thrown
hear their
knife.
reason.
Because swoop, they don't get +1 on landing. They don't get swoop is now D3 instead of 3 standard spaces. So they're going to land further away. They're going to need that extra move.
But they could still get into. You're guaranteed to get into range. Why, like, why move of all the things you could take? Fucking dumb. It's so
I
dumb.
think it's because some people are actually using the Doom Diver as their primary ball carrier.
Oh God, no.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that
We
if
should
I've got
find them
Doom
and
Diver,
stop them.
But
that's
he
why it's
can't.
good.
He can't stunty dodge. You
Yeah,
don't
but
want.
if I've got like 3 turns to score, the Doom Diver's the ball carrier because then I've got the option of throwing.
Yeah, throwing it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've just got to get him to halfway, and then I can throw him from there. It's like and you've got options that way, I guess. I mean, going back to what you said earlier about would I take?
Now, I just,
random...
by the way, I just need to say, if there's a certain reinforcement I hope is about to come and join us and bring up perhaps some points that may have been said in chat that I may have missed. There's a lot to do as we go through this, and I've had a lot of things I wanted to throw on the screen today, so I didn't have as much time to keep my eye on chat. I have tried to, but I'm hoping a reinforcement is going to join us and tell us what they think of what we've been saying so far, as well as bring up anything from chat. Sorry, I did interrupt. Go ahead, Yadlager.
Yeah, so with like my experience so far in playing leagues has been the new casualty table has absolutely wrecked my team, and I don't have the money to replace goblins as much as I did under Blood Bowl 2. I've found
Wow.
it's not so much stats and dead, it's the missed next games that really hurt. I'm spending a lot of my money on replacing missed next games so that I'm not running. You can't run a goblin team with journeymen the same as you can with other teams. So you've got to have.
Yeah, you need a bench.
13,
You can't go 11 as you start
at
the
least
game.
14. If I have a game where I get 4 missed next games, I've got to buy 2 goblins, and all my money is going on buying new goblins. So I don't have the funds to be able to just roll primaries and sack them if I don't like it. So
Do you start with dedicated fans by any chance?
So in my tabletop league, they've house ruled the money. So we don't use the money rules from the new rule book.
No, that's insane. That's insane.
Hello,
Hey, Tibble.
everyone.
Welcome, Tibham, to One World, One Blood Bowl. I felt it was only fair if we were going to talk about goblins. I know Moradam is an actual goblin, that I invite another actual goblin on. If you haven't met him before, he is a Twitch streamer, a good friend of mine. I would highly recommend his Twitch. It will be linked, of course, in all the places where I normally drop the links, but he's not that hard to find. If you search Tibham and if you search Goblin, this fella will appear. Welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl, Tibham. You're a goblin. How do you feel about the show tonight? How's it going? And have you been interested in what we're saying?
First of all, what an honor to be able to join you legends. I have to say, you guys were spot on. Really enjoyed the discussion so far. So yeah, everything was great. I mean, great strategies. You went aboard. Yep.
It's the reasons we've been talking about why we love goblins, that the fun that they bring back to us, that joy of childhood and of the silly things we can do with them. Chainsaws, ball and chains, throwing bombs, for goodness sake. Also, they're just massive, the biggest underdogs in Blood Bowl for sure. Is that what hooked you on with goblins?
Yeah, and being one myself,
Of course,
So,
yes.
I want to cause man, kill, and hope to remove enough players before, we get removed.
Now, I did
So
also
it's
ask you,
all
as
or
well
nothing.
as coming on, I did say to keep an eye on chat for me. Is there anything in chat that we missed that's been going on? Has there been a lot of love for the goblins, I presume?
Yep, noted a few questions there. So, first of all, holy pepperoni. Why is there a bunch of Yumis talking about goblin stuff and there isn't any goblin around the table? Well, that's embarrassing.
Turns out I had that covered. People should have trusted me.
Yep, well, thanks, PC. Next question. In three words only, what's the best about goblins and what's the worst? Everyone.
Oh, good question. Let's start with Morodan. What's the best and the worst thing about goblins?
The best thing is that they are cheap, fast, in quotes, stunty players. Right? You can get stuff done with them, no matter how many you have. You have 2 goblins and a troll. That's all you need. 2 goblins, a troll, and a dream. Unfortunately, the downside is you need 2 goblins, which and you need a smart troll, and sometimes that dream still isn't enough. So
Okay,
and,
well,
uh,
but let's hope you're with us. Thanks for persisting.
Yeah.
What's the best and the worst thing about goblins?
Just to clarify, you can see me and hear me,
We can.
right?
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. The 3 best things: they're cheap, they're fun, and they're fluff. I absolutely love their fluff. I love goblin fluff. The worst things: radically inconsistent. You can have one good game, and then the very next game you can do everything the same and just fall on your face. Second is they really need a buff, and the third, I think just they just implode harder than any other team.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yes, we
good
do.
shouts. Yudlugger, come on in. What's the best things and worst things about goblins?
Oh, well, in 3 words, it's when they work is the best thing, and when they don't is the worst thing for sure. But I think, as well, I think when they are working, you have a load of fun and your opponent has no fun at all. I think that's the best feeling, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
They get to see a chainsaw working. Come on.
Yep. You gotta enjoy the little things, buddy.
Okay, I mean, for my answer, one of the best things about goblins, there's always options somewhere every turn. There's things that can work. They're hilariously fun because they just can't actually do anything reliably. And just secretly, no one sees you coming as goblins. Just no one.
That's
Holy
true.
moly.
What's the worst thing about them? They're goblins. Everything they do is terrible and they're rubbish at it. But that's kind of why
Come
I
on,
love
man.
them too.
sorry,
Tibbo,
Tibble.
what's your view?
Jesus.
Well, first of all, we're green, and that's great.
That is, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we can all agree there.
Nothing bad,
Yes.
really.
Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough.
next
Yep.
question.
Next question.
If you could bring back one star player to life in 2020, which one would it be?
Ripper Ballgrot. Ripper Ballgrot.
Ripper.
Yeah, I think
Let it
it's
rip.
4 Rippers. I believe part of the problem is the Ripper Dipper, as I'm calling it, that losing Ripper has driven some of the better Goblin coaches in testing out Snotlings. But, like a man running around with a woman far too young for him when his beautiful wife is at home. They'll come back. They'll come back to Goblins. Once we have Ripper, we'll bring them home.
By the way, you guys should see Lady Gobble. She's great. So, next. How would you fix the team and make them a bit better, or what would you change?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to start with Yudlugger. What would you change? How can we make them a bit better? Everyone else has had a buff. What do we need?
Oh no, we covered it, and I think it's the loner on the trolls is that would make a huge difference.
Okay, loner on the trolls. Walbum, anything to add?
Well, you took that one from me. I think for me, a cost reduction. Revert their costs all back to what they were before 2020. That would help them save. Even the trolls, 110k.
Yeah, they have got a little bit more expensive. Kind of hard to cram in as much as we normally like to give us some kind of shot. Morodan?
Either skill access. We're one of the only stunty teams that. Well, I guess most of the stunty teams don't give skill access, but somebody with general access. Maybe the Pogo, maybe the Bomber with pass access, and take away bribery and corruption from all those other stunty teams. Bribes are our thing. They're not goblins. How are they getting these cheaper refs? I want to see how they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Black Orcs particularly. I mean, but just quite a lot of that. I mean, there's just it used to be that if you wanted to run fouling with cover, it was goblins, and now there's so many other options. I think I'm going to leap in with Yudlugger. I think it is the trolls. I want them at 3+ loner. I think we all looked at that and went, well, yeah, thanks, but really? Why is it there at all?
I think
it's only 2
I think
trolls.
that's the
Come on.
clincher, PC. I think that's actually the clincher, actually. And actually, I know I mentioned why I stopped playing goblins, but that's actually another one. Because I mean, even though he's reviled by many, I much prefer the Chaos Minotaur over the Goblin Trolls. Yeah, I know he's not popular, he's not optimal, but it's just like, okay, well, even if you fail, you're not losing your tackle zones. But if the troll loses its tackle zones, you've just lost it. You've
Yeah.
potentially lost everything, you know, and it's unbearable, especially when it's only a 2+ or a 3+ donut. Nope, you fail, and now that part of the pitch is gone, you know.
Okay. Do you have anything else for us, Tibble?
Yep.
Okay.
First of all, something got my attention there. So PC likes us because we're cheap, but not cheap enough for Mr. Holbam. Well,
Sorry,
okay,
man.
that's
Sorry.
awkward. So, last question, very important. I don't know if he's still in chat, but why is Timum still not in JFW? Oh well,
It is. It
I
is
don't know.
a good question there. I mean, I'm not in charge of Mr. Jimmy Fantastic. I do know him. I will try and ask him to try and put you in.
Yeah,
There
I
is
think he's
already
scared.
some goblin competition there. I think you'll find Moridan, to my I don't know, one side or other, is in there pretending to be a goblin,
Mhm.
and already has a non-goblin partner that he tag teams with.
Oh no.
Perhaps
Yeah,
there's a double goblin thing could happen. I don't know. At least, look, I'm just grateful. I think more people in this world are going to be aware of the lovely tip of the goblin. So thank you very much for joining us. To all four of my lovely guests, we do need to close this up. We've been here a long time talking about goblins. I could do this all night. I'm sure some of you
Okay.
could too, but I've asked you for an hour and we've done that. We've done that and more. We're heading now towards an hour and a half mark, which I do try and wrap them up at this point. Our final thoughts on goblins, either a sell to why we should get other people coaching them, or where we think they're going, or what they need. I just want you to put your message out there, whatever you want that to be, and then I'll wrap us all up. Let's start with the lovely Yadlaga. Thank you for volunteering to come on. I didn't know you before. I think you've been excellent company this evening. It's really helped me make one of my points, which is there isn't an answer to how to coach goblins. And I want to do an episode where we talk about things like dwarves. I think there's going to be a lot more unanimity in terms of how we go forwards. We've said that different varieties of weapons can be effective, different ways of building can be effective, but that there is some hope for the future. The stars are coming back. There are ways of building goblins. What do you want to say to the world about goblins in 2022?
Yeah, I agree with that, and cheers for having me on, I guess. But I think you're right. Is there are lots of Goblin coaches who've had very good records, good tournaments, good playoff runs, and so on, and they almost all play differently. They almost all have different team builds. There's not really and that's one of the things you can kind of put your stamp on the team a little bit in a way.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play around the toys, they can work. If you want to play around the trolls and hire a third troll in, that can work. If you want to go long and foul, that can work. But you probably do need to choose a way to try and get it done and really focus on how you're doing that. I think when people try and do it in too many ways, that can also be a real
Yeah, but like
pitfall.
balancing your inducements against who you're playing and changing your game plan against your opponent as well. It's quite important to know a little bit about who your opponent is and how they'll play. You know, if I'm playing somebody I think has a fair chance of beating me, I'll lean more into the sort of dice rolling and going. You know, I might take a bomber and hope that I can take his cage out with a bomber because he'll probably beat me otherwise, and that kind of thing. You know.
Okay, fantastic. Walburn, what's your summation of thoughts on goblins as we stand here today?
Okay, well, my summation, I'll start with my summation, then just a brief message. Goblins are still very fun. Still have a lot of potential. They have been neglected, unfortunately, but they will always have that unique element of the wacky weapons. And yeah, with the introduction of fungus and triple snot, I think they're well on their way to getting back to not being awful. My message it would be just remember that goblins and by extension Blood Bowl, um, take things in moderation because you can burn out on your enjoyment on both of those
Yeah.
elements.
I mean, we've done a lot of stuff about mental health on One World, One Blood Bowl. We're going to have on someone in the very next episode coming from Squad Chaos, which is huge into that. Absolutely huge, hugely good message. Look after yourself. Particularly, goblins can be really tilty, aren't they? Because there is so much fail built in. And whilst you're having a lot of fun, they can really punish you at times. Just when everything seems to be
Yeah.
there, they'll goblin it all up, and that next turn will just see you in disaster again. Be careful with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Remember, you're doing it for silly fun. And even though we've talked
Exactly.
perhaps about trying to be, I don't know, competitive in Goblins, I don't want people to think One World, One Blood Bowl is just about that edge gaming, looking for the competitive advantage all the time. It's not. It's about trying to have fun. I'm always going to give you advice in how I think you can improve playing, because I think that's what people tend to find fun. But it doesn't mean if you're, rolling at 20% with your goblins and having a whale of a time, you should do anything different. You absolutely shouldn't. You are, in some ways, winning in ways some of us will never do so. Moridan, goblins.
Yep. If I had to sum up goblins in a sentence in Blood Bowl, it's we don't have the best team, but we have the best coaches. We have the best community, right? We have Goblin Town. We've got people like Yudlugger and Tibum and Corny Koopa and Kiander. We had Misspelled Tree, who ran the best goblin run in Rebel history, right?
And
You
is
can do
talking
fantastic stuff
about
with
maybe
goblins.
taking goblins to the UKTC. We will confirm that in 2 weeks' time when she's on the show.
I
We'll see.
would love to see that. I would love to see that. Yeah, we don't expect to win with goblins, but play to win with goblins, right? Don't go. I mean, that's true of any team in Blood Bowl. Never go into a game thinking I've got this easy, because that is how you lose.
I think,
Right? And that's actually Goblins' biggest advantage is that teams go in and they're like, it's Goblins. I can play loose, right? And if you play loose against Goblins, you're gonna get chainsawed.
yeah, we'll take your ball away and stamp on your face. I think there's a really important point in the middle of that. I quite like the idea that as well as never go into a game expecting to win, and with goblins that really shouldn't be the case anyway unless you're madly delusional, but also don't go into it expecting to lose. I see a lot of people going, oh, well, I'm playing goblins, so of course I'll lose, but I'll have some fun. Well, maybe not of course you'll lose. I mean, that's what we're trying to point out, is there are some ways to at least feel there's some chance at that game. But a lot of people, I guess, prefer to just surrender that and feel, well, if I already think I've lost, then it's not going to hurt me.
Yeah.
I just think, you can get some success with goblins. Very few people are rocking a win rate over 50% with them. It is achievable even in the medium to long term. Tibum, thank you for joining us. What's your thoughts on goblins? I should obviously default to you.
Yeah, well, just try it. Give gobbos the love they deserve, and they'll get back plenty. Really?
Fantastic. Okay, I mean, my final thoughts. I love playing goblins. It was a challenge to me by the legendary coach Arrested Development, who, back when I was just rinsing a lot of dwarves, trying to get ready and build up some skill and some concept of what I wanted to do if I launched onto tabletop play, because I knew there'd be a level of expectation if I turned up to a tabletop event, and I wanted to make sure I could sort of live up to that. So I did a lot of low TV dwarves. Lots of people found that quite toxic, and AD challenged me and said, for charity, would you do a goblin run and a halfling run in Black Box on Fumble? And I did. I did 16 games with each for the very first time I'd coached either race. And I found flings awful and quite toxic. And then I had to play a very aggressive, dangerous, remove your team style to always win with them. And goblins, whilst there's a little bit of that still true, I just found them more fun. I love the toys. They reminded me of my childhood and what got me into Blood Bowl in the first place, the silliness of it. Not the winningness, the silliness. Now, I can't help who I am. I try and win even when I play with goblins, but I'm having a lot more fun. I'm being a lot more silly with them than I am with other races, and that's why I love them. I think they can be competitive, but it's kind of not the point. I mean, I think you should always probably try, if you're playing a game, to play it as good as you can. But really with goblins, it's such a joy when anything successful happens on any turn, let alone on any game. That's where the joy has to come from, as well as if you're trying to rinse wins. Yeah, you'll love them, but they won't be as common as with other races. There's easier ways to pump your win rate.
Enjoy the little things.
But enjoy the little things. And remember, when you're a goblin, no one sees you coming. Now, on the next few One Blood Bowls, in 2 weeks' time, I already hinted we're having the lovely Misspelled Tree coming on. I think that has been confirmed. We're expecting Glowworm from Squad Chaos. And the lovely Joe Manji, the brains behind the Team England success on the NAF tabletop scene of the last 10 years. And the four of us are all heading to the UKTC, so that's what we're going to be discussing that time. Looking at our builds, looking at what to do up there, what to expect. The show after that, the team I'm going to the UKTC with is now known as the Twitch Stream Dream Team, featuring as it does myself, Dimmy G, Necronome and Hancock. And I'll be getting all three of those on One World, One Blood Bowl, hopefully. And we'll be doing a wash-up session talking about what happened at the UKTC, what they enjoyed, what they didn't, and what those 3 brand new tabletop virgins learned by their first ever tabletop games being in the single toughest, highest, most competitive tabletop event that happens in Blood Bowl in the UK on any given year. So I think that should be fun. That's the next 2, but that has been One World, One Blood Bowl for tonight. Thank you to my beloved Goblin friends. The links to Goblin Town, all of their Twitches, and various other things, including the stuff we looked at. I'm aware that wasn't visible to people listening to the podcast, but those stats in terms of where goblins are and where, what skills they're picking, I will try and make available in all of the abouts. Thank you for your time. That has been One World, One Blood Bowl number 12. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Thank you all for coming on, and hopefully we will see these lovely people again very soon. Let me see if I can send the people that are here on a raid somewhere, because whilst I may come back and stream a bit later myself, I haven't played Blood Bowl for ages and I really fancy it. I will be taking a break before I do that. Who do we have on? We have Daedalquist or Fight Soul Fight. I think I will send you, because I know he loves his goblins, over to the lovely Daedalquist. I hope he forgave me for not inviting him on this evening. I know he does love his goblins. But frankly, he's abandoned them for, wood elves.
Disgusting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we all think he's dead to us. He's dead to us.
There's the player taking dwarves to Blitz Pit.
Let's snipe it with our guns.
Jimmy Fantastic wouldn't let me take goblins. Right.
You did take goblins once, though,
I
PC.
did take
and you know
goblins to a
what?
Blitzpit qualifier.
You did. Yeah.
And I pushed them through 3 wins and into the final round, where it was only some really tough dice in turns 15 that stopped me taking it to overtime with a huge man advantage, when I think I could have owned Zaz's undeads and won through with them. I'd love to do that again. I consider
Some
that
horrible
an
bastard took
uncrossed
goblins, so I
bridge.
couldn't. Some horrible, horrible teammate bastard who will not be named
I
took
think in
goblins
this
to Blitz Pit
Blitzpit
instead
they
of me.
built beautifully, so we might talk a little bit about that after Blitzpit in 2 weeks' time. But right now, I do need to wrap up, or Dibby's going to be joking about my endless outros again. Thank you very much. That was One World, One Blood Bowl number 12. I will start the raid and say good night to my lovely guests and good night to everyone in chat. Thank you for coming along. I enjoyed doing these, and I will keep doing them. I hope you're enjoying having them. The feedback is available to you to give me in all the usual places. Bye now.